Welcome to the final video in the psychology of ethical persuasion. Why people say yes. Over the past 3 sessions, we've uncovered the powerful principles that shape human behavior: giving before asking, staying consistent, following the crowd, connecting through likeness, trusting authority, and reacting to scarcity. Today, we bring it all together. You'll learn how to apply these principles in the real world, not as isolated techniques, but as a unified, ethical framework. In video 4 is about ethical influence in action. It is covered with Chapter 7, integrating the 6 principles, and also Chapter 8, real-world influence without manipulation, and the final chapter is Chapter 9, red flags, boundaries, and ethical persuasion. This episode is not just about what to say or do, it's about who you become when you communicate with integrity. Whether you're closing a sale, leading a team, building a brand, or having a difficult conversation, ethical influence will give you clarity, direction, and impact. Let's bring it home. Chapter 7, integrating the 6 principles. Let's begin by revisiting the 6 principles, not as separate tools, but as an integrated system of communication. When used together, these principles don't just persuade, they transform the way people feel, think, and act around you. Reciprocity tells us to give before asking. It builds trust through generosity. Consistency shows us how small commitments create big loyalty. Social proof reminds us that people follow people, especially in times of uncertainty. Liking teaches us that trust grows through connection and shared identity. Authority reveals that credibility and presence create confidence. Scarcity reminds us that urgency drives action faster than logic. When combined, these principles create a persuasive force that doesn't push, it pulls. You're not convincing someone, you're guiding them to a choice that already feels right. Think of it like this: you start with giving, offering value, advice, or attention. That opens the door, then you invite a small action, a reply, a click, a decision. You show them that others like them have said yes too. You connect on a personal level, building rapport. You demonstrate credibility so they feel they're in safe hands. And finally, you give them a reason to act now, with urgency that's real and respectful. This is how ethical persuasion feels: natural, honest, human. Not because you followed a script, but because you aligned with how people actually make decisions. Chapter 8, real-world influence without manipulation. Now let's talk about how this plays out in real life. Imagine you're running a small business. You're not a celebrity, you're not a massive brand, but you want people to buy, trust, and share your work. Here's how these principles work in practice. You offer something valuable upfront, maybe a guide, a helpful video, a free consultation. That's reciprocity. You invite the person to take a small step, join a list, answer a question, commit to a trial. That's consistency. You show testimonials, case studies, or how others are benefiting. That's social proof. You share your voice, your story, and show genuine care. That's liking. You back your words with results, expertise, or partnerships. That's authority. And you let them know, honestly, why this opportunity may not last because of timing, availability, or relevance. That's scarcity. This is not manipulation. It's thoughtful, ethical influence. It's influence that respects autonomy, highlights truth, and honors people's emotions. You're not forcing action, you're removing resistance, and the same is true in leadership. If you're managing a team, start with value, support, clarity, vision. Get small buy-in before demanding big changes. Let your people see that others are on board. Be real, not distant. Be credible. And help them see why action matters now, not later. This framework works because it reflects how people already think. You're not changing people, you're helping them move with confidence, clarity, and trust. Chapter 9, red flags, boundaries, and ethical persuasion. Finally, let's address the deeper side of ethical influence: what it is, what it isn't, and where the red flags lie. Ethical persuasion is rooted in transparency. You don't hide facts, you don't use tricks. You give people the full picture, and you respect their power to choose. The goal is not to win at any cost, it's to serve, guide, and align. Red flags appear when persuasion turns into pressure. When urgency is faked, when stories are fabricated. When someone's fear is played on without offering real value or support. That's manipulation, and people can feel it. Even if they buy, they won't return. Even if they say yes, the relationship suffers. That's why your long-term influence depends on your short-term honesty. If a product isn't right for someone, say so. If a promise feels too big, adjust it. When you lead with truth, people remember. When you stretch the truth, people run. Ethical persuasion also requires boundaries. Not everyone is your customer. Not everyone will agree, and that's okay. Influence with integrity means you don't chase approval. You serve with clarity and let people come to you when it's right. It's also okay to say no, to walk away from a deal that doesn't align, to step back from relationships that cross your values. Because true influence comes from alignment, not desperation. In the end, ethical persuasion is not about changing people. It's about guiding people to decisions that serve them and you in the most honest way possible. In this final chapter, we tied together the 6 principles into a complete framework of ethical influence. You've seen how giving first, creating small commitments, leveraging social proof, building emotional connection, presenting authority, and using urgency all work together to inspire action. But most importantly, you've seen that persuasion doesn't have to be pressure. It can be honest, human, real. Influence isn't about getting your way. It's about guiding someone to clarity. It's about making it easier for them to say yes because it makes sense to them, not just to you. And when you do this with truth, care, and integrity, your influence doesn't just grow, it lasts. As we close, here are a few questions to take with you. Which of the 6 principles are you already using, and how can you strengthen them? Where have you leaned too far into pressure, and how can you bring back balance? How will you make sure your influence aligns with your values, not just your goals? And finally, what kind of leader, brand, or communicator do you want to be remembered as? Your answers will shape not just what you say, but how people receive it. Thank you for walking this journey through the psychology of ethical persuasion. If this series has helped you think, speak, and influence more clearly, be sure to subscribe and share it with others who value ethical leadership and communication. You now have the tools. Use them with care, with confidence, and with purpose. Until next time, lead with value, speak with clarity, and always influence with integrity. And do not forget to hit the subscribe and like our video. See you in next famous audiobook.